What if the history we think we know, the story of our cities and our past, is wrong, not just incomplete, but a deliberate fabrication? What if the evidence for a lost, technologically advanced global civilization is hiding in plain sight, encoded in the foundations of our oldest, most famous landmarks? It sounds like a fantasy novel, but some believe the proof is undeniable. Look at this bridge in Peru. Now, this one in Spain. And this one in Russia. They're separated by thousands of miles and supposedly hundreds of years. Yet the design is nearly identical. This isn't a coincidence. It's a pattern, a signature, and it seems to point to a single global builder. This isn't just a story about architecture, it's a detective story. And it leads to a disturbing question. If this advanced global civilization existed, why is it being erased? We're told a simple story of progress. Humanity crawls out of the Dark Ages, rediscovers knowledge in the Renaissance, and builds the modern world with the Industrial Revolution. It's a straight line march of progress, but that story starts to fall apart when you look closer. The first clue is in the stone itself. Let's take the famous Charles Bridge in Prague. The official story says construction began in 1357, a masterpiece of Gothic engineering. But the official story has holes. The theory points to what it calls impossibilities. Look at the doorways on the bridge's towers. Some of them are 12 to 14 feet above the street. Why would you build a door that opens onto a sheer drop? The conventional answer is defense, or long-lost wooden staircases. But a more radical theory suggests these doors were once at ground level. This would mean that Prague, and countless other ancient cities, were buried under meters of dirt. In a single, catastrophic event, a mud flood that submerged an entire world. Then there are the foundations, which record say go 11 meters deep. Was this just for stability, or were the builders of 1357 simply repairing a much older structure from a now drowned world? This isn't an isolated case. Travel to Florence and see the Ponte Vecchio. Venice, the Rialto Bridge. The theory claims they all share the same mathematical constants, like pi, encoded in their design. These aren't independent structures. They're products of a standardized, global template. A template that suggests a level of technology and communication. The history books say was impossible. Historians say it's just a shared architectural style, a memory of Roman engineering. But this, the theory argues, ignores the sheer scale and precision. Quarrying and moving massive stone blocks with a precision that would challenge modern logistics. Let alone an era of horse and cart. So where are the records of this civilization? Their books, their histories, their names? The theory offers a chilling answer. They were deliberately erased. That the evidence was physically destroyed, wiped from maps and records. In a coordinated effort that turns this architectural mystery into a global cover-up. It's a compelling idea. A lost world. A grand conspiracy. But is it real? To find out, We have to become detectives. We have to dig into the details. The entire theory rests on the idea that these structures are identical copies, sharing one engineering signature. So, are they? Let's go back to our examples. The Ponte Vecchio in Florence. The Charles Bridge in Prague. The Rialto Bridge in Venice. The historical record tells a different story. The Ponte Vecchio was finished around 1345. Charles Bridge began in 1357, but the Rialto Bridge wasn't completed until 1591, over 2 centuries later. They are not from the same moment in time. And it shows in their design. The Charles Bridge is classic Gothic, with fortified towers. The Rialto is a masterpiece of the Renaissance, a single, elegant span. They both use stone arches, but to call them identical is like saying a Model T and a Tesla share an engineering signature because they both have 4 wheels. The similarity comes from the first principles of engineering, not a secret blueprint. What about that shared mathematical signature? The pi ratio. This, too, dissolves under scrutiny. The Charles Bridge is over 500 meters long and about 13 meters high, a ratio of roughly 40:1, not 3.14:1. While math is fundamental to building a stable arch, the idea of one mystical ratio, encoded across continents, just doesn't hold up. The signature isn't a secret. It's the enduring legacy of Roman engineering, which was the open source technology of its day. Now, for the tantalizing mystery of the buried cities. The idea of a great mud flood is incredibly evocative. But when we investigate, a different picture emerges. Let's return to the Charles Bridge. The foundations are indeed deep, set on bedrock. But this isn't proof of a sunken world. It's proof of brilliant engineering. The Valdivia River was known for a catastrophic floods that destroyed the previous bridge. The builders of 1357 knew this. They sank the foundations deep. To withstand the force of water in Iso battle, the bridge is still winning today. So what about the high doorways? This phenomenon is real, but it wasn't a single cataclysmic event. It was a slow process that happened in nearly every major city. Before modern sanitation, streets were layered. To repave, it was easier. To just build on top of the old layer of debris, trash, and waste. Over hundreds of years, the street level would slowly rise. A ground floor from the 14th century becomes a basement in the 18th. This wasn't a cataclysm. It was the messy reality of urban evil. Finally, what about the impossible construction? The claim that medieval builders couldn't achieve such precision comes from a modern bias that sees the past as primitive. But the artisans who built these structures were masters, using simple tools. Skilled stonemasons could create incredibly tight joints. Skilled stonemasons could create incredibly tight joints. We don't need lost technology to explain their skill. We just need to respect it. Egg yolks were mixed in as a binding agent. This is an advanced technology. It's clever, resourceful, medieval chemistry. The trail doesn't lead to one lost civilization. It leads to a dozen different stories. of human ingenuity scattered across centuries. The theory gets darker here. It claims this civilization was actively, violently erased. The key evidence: the great World's Fairs of the late 19th century, and a vanished empire called Tartaria. The argument is that the magnificent buildings of the 1893 Chicago World's Fair weren't temporary. They were surviving cities of the lost civilization, showcased one last time before being demolished by the new controllers. It's a shocking claim, and it's verifiably false. We have the blueprints. We have the purchase orders. We have thousands of photos showing these white cities being built. They looked like stone, but they were an illusion made of a material called staff. A mix of plaster and hemp fiber over cheap wood and steel frames. They were stage sets. The reason they were demolished wasn't to hide history, but because they were never meant to last. The erasure wasn't a conspiracy. It was a scheduled demolition. This brings us to the centerpiece of the theory, the enigma of Tartaria. If you look at a 17th century map of Asia, you'll see a massive territory called Great Tartary. It spans thousands of miles. On a later map, it's gone, replaced by Russia and China. From this observation, the theory of a lost global superpower was born. But what was Tartary? It was never an empire. It was never a country. Tartary was a vague, catch-all term European mapmakers used for a part of the world they knew almost nothing about. It was the vast, mysterious expanse of Central Asia. It was, essentially, a cartographic placeholder for here-be dragons. Its disappearance from maps wasn't an act of erasure. It was an act of discovery. As 19th century explorers and surveyors pushed into Central Asia, they replaced the vague label of Tartary with the actual names, ... of the regions and peoples they found there. The mapmakers weren't hiding an empire. They were finally filling in the details. So, we come back to our central question. Why are they erasing a superior global civilization? The evidence we've examined, from bridges to maps, points to an unavoidable conclusion. They aren't. There is no day. There is no cabal. And the superior global civilization of Tartaria is a myth. A compelling, intricate, and fascinating myth. But a myth nonetheless. So, why does it exist? To dismiss it as just another conspiracy theory is to miss the point. This story is born from a genuine feeling. The history we're taught is incomplete. That our world has lost a sense of magic, and that we've been cut off from a more profound past. The narrative of a lost utopia is a powerful antidote. to a modern world that can feel mundane and corrupt. It's easier to blame a shadowy they for demolishing beautiful buildings than to confront the messy economic forces of industrialization. The motive for creating this myth is a deeply human one. A desire for meaning, to believe we are part of something grander. The ultimate irony is that in chasing this phantom empire, we risk overlooking the real wonders of our own history. The truth isn't one monolithic civilization. It's far more chaotic, diverse, and, in my opinion, far more interesting. The real magic is not in lost technology. It's in the breathtaking skill of a medieval stonemason with a chisel. The real wonder is not a single blueprint, but in the way Roman engineering ideas could survive the fall of an empire and be improved 1,000 years later by builders in Prague. The world is not less magical because Tartaria didn't exist. Is more so because it means that magnificence was not the domain of one lost, mythical super-civilization. It was, and is, the birthright of all of us. The investigation doesn't have to end. I encourage you to look around your own town. Find the oldest buildings, the bridges, the forgotten monuments. Don't just see them as old structures. Investigate their real stories. You might be surprised by the incredible tales of ingenuity and perseverance you find. What impossible structures have you seen? Share them in the comments. And let's explore their real stories together.
Hello and welcome. It's wonderful to have you with us as we explore this fascinating topic.
Thank you for joining this investigation. Hit subscribe for more deep dives.